why did Johnny Depp attract Amber Heard? What can we learn from this situation? How can we heal our childhood wounds so that we don't attract people into our lives that maybe put feces in our bed or like punch us or hit us, or there's some type of maybe domestic abuse that may be going on? How can we create situations to where we don't allow that into our reality? And how can we heal so that that doesn't creep into our reality? Now, first off, when it comes to attracting different partners, realize we always attract people that come in alignment with what we are familiar with. So first off, if you haven't been watching that of the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard trial, what is happening is Amber Heard back in 2017 claimed that Johnny Depp beat her and she was a victim of domestic abuse, to find out that through this trial, she was the one that has been abusing Johnny Depp. She's the one that was hitting him, not punching him, but hitting him. That's, at least if you've been watching the trial, then you know what that's about. But also, weird things happened where Johnny Depp found human feces inside of his bed. There were just many different situations that have implied that she is a very angry person who took a lot of her anger onto Johnny Depp. Not to say Johnny Depp is perfect, because Johnny Depp, from the trial, from what we see, is addicted or was addicted to drugs and was very codependent on different substances. However, from what it looks like, I'm not an expert at this, but it looks like he's a very soft guy that in a way was not violent in the way that he was abusing her or hitting her. I don't think anybody's come up to the trial yet that said that he gets angry and hits people or anything like that, but many people, even her own assistant, have said that she's very violent and angry, and she's never seen Johnny Depp actually hit her. So anyways, besides all the drama, one thing that I found fascinating about this trial is just how much I could see my dad's situation in the same thing that Johnny Depp is going through. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I've been around, I at least know that situation, and I can tell what and why my dad attracted my ex-stepmom, who in a way has very similar personality traits as Amber Heard from what I've seen. Now, first off, I'll say, in 2017, Amber Heard said that Johnny Depp was abusing her. Now, one of the things that I know was a tactic of my ex-stepmom, who was emotionally manipulative, abusive. I also think she has had borderline personality disorder. Same thing that I can kind of see maybe is a thing with Amber Heard, and I'm not gaslighting it or downplaying it, but I can tell that there's definitely certain patterns there that cause this emotional upswing and emotional downswing. Now, back when my dad was with my ex-stepmom, I was 7 to 15 years old. There was a lot of manipulation, a lot of anger that was there. And with my ex-stepmom, one thing that I guess my dad said that happened was she would accuse my dad of cheating on her. My dad's the nicest guy in the world. Like, my dad's super nice, not to say he's perfect, but he's almost nice to a fault, to where he gets manipulated. That's why he was in a relationship with somebody who was a narcissist, and like my ex-stepmom. Now, she would claim to my dad, "You are cheating on me," and my dad wasn't cheating on her. And what my dad believes is that when she was doing that, he's almost certain that she was actually cheating on him. So one of the characteristic traits of a narcissist is they're afraid to be found out. So one thing they will do is they will claim that the other person is doing the thing that they did, because then you wouldn't ever assume that they would do that, because they're claiming someone else did it. When in actuality, they're afraid that someone's going to see them, to see what they've done, or to see maybe their true colors. So then what they do is they deflect it and they project it onto someone else. So from what I've seen on the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, is what I believe happened is she was the one that was a very emotionally manipulated, not to say that there wasn't maybe back and forth some level of emotional manipulation, but she was physically abusive. She was hitting Johnny Depp, and he was going through kind of being gaslit a lot. You could hear it too in tapes where she was gaslighting the shit out of him, calling him a fat old man, and like just saying things that really you could tell were meant and intended to make him feel less than. And basically, it is something that was a complete reflection of maybe her own fears of being found out in 2017 after they divorced. Now, One of the things as well that I found very fascinating about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial was that he talks a lot about his childhood. And interestingly enough, Johnny Depp's mom, his mom was in his life, and she was somebody that was also physically abusive, emotionally abusive. She would gaslight the shit out of Johnny Depp as well. Johnny Depp, growing up, had a cock eye. What his mom would make him do is wear a patch over his good eye to strengthen up, not a cock eye, a lazy eye. So he had a lazy eye, and what she would do, though, is put a patch over his good eye so that his lazy eye had to work extra hard to strengthen, and she would call him names like cock eye. And she would, like, make him feel, or, you know, like, she would gaslight the shit out of him, basically. And he was used to that. He was used to a woman in his life trying to control him, talking down to him. Maybe also his mom was addicted. My guess is that maybe he talks about this, but she was probably maybe addicted to pills and maybe addicted to different substances and stuff, because Johnny Depp also has that level of addiction. Now, what I can see in the relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard is a certain level of codependency. Codependency where there's a certain familiar energy there that reminds Johnny Depp of childhood, of his mom. And there's a certain familiarity there. And a lot of times what we do with our partners and the people we attract into our life, we may attract people into our life sometimes to reflect back to us unhealed energy dynamics that were at play when we were kids so that we can heal it. Now, interestingly enough as well, when he got with Amber Heard was when his mom passed away in 2016 or 2017. 2016, I believe. And what's interesting is when his mom passed away, or around that time, that's when he got with Amber Heard. Now, I find that even in my own life, from 7 to 15 years old, I had my ex-stepmom in my life who was narcissist, still is. I don't have to see her anymore though, but emotionally, mentally, physically abusive. 15 years old, my dad divorced her, never really had to see her again. But after that, I attracted someone into my life that was very manipulative and controlling, which was an ex-girlfriend. And then, ironically enough, I was with her for like longer than I should have been. It was not a healthy relationship. And for like 3 or 4 years, we were in a relationship. And then what happened is I finally broke up with her, got the balls to break up with her. Why did I stay in that relationship, by the way? Probably the same thing that Johnny Depp said. People asked him on trial or whatever, why did you stay in the relationship with Amber Heard if it's so bad and so abusive? He said, I probably stayed in it because my dad stayed in the relationship with my mom. Think about that. Why did I stay in a relationship for 3 or 4 years of somebody that was jealous, like emotionally manipulative, and very controlling back when I was like 18 years old? Probably because my dad stayed in the relationship with my ex-stepmom for 7 years, like 6 years longer than was healthy. So it's interesting because we tend to find ourselves in similar patterns of our parents. And in Johnny Depp's situation, he stayed in it because in the same way, his dad stayed in the relationship with his mom up until a certain point. Eventually, his dad did leave his mom. However, he was able to recognize that pattern in himself. Now, in the same way, when it comes to his own mom, his mom was that same kind of gaslighting, manipulative type way. He then attracted Amber. And the thing to understand about this is sometimes we attract people, many times we attract people that can teach us and show us what we can actually learn. This is very hard to look at. With my dad, who attracted my ex-stepmom from 7 to 15 years old, after 15, I never really had to deal with her again because she's not my real mom. She is my ex-stepmom. And however, though, I have 2 sisters who that's their real mom. So they're 2 half-sisters, that's their real mom. They have to deal with her in a way. So it's a little bit different, but my dad in a way has been kind of like having to still deal with her up until a year ago when my sister turned 18. My youngest sister turned 18. So the interesting thing that it's very obvious from the outside looking in for me is my dad being like an empath, nice guy, kind of like a people pleaser mentality, attracting my ex-stepmom. There's actually something there for him to learn. And what it was for him to learn was how to stand up for himself. It was how to say no. It was how to actually leave. And even after the divorce, he still had to deal with a lot of BS from my ex-stepmom because there was a lot of drama with my sisters where she was trying to control them. One of my sisters wanted to get away from her and not be around her. They had to go to court and all of this stuff, and it was this very dramatic type thing. But when we'd go to court, she would go to court, she would claim some of the most crazy things about my dad that were so not true, but it was her way of like getting the judge confused so that then the judge wonders like who's telling the truth and who's lying. It seems like little kids, and I'm sure the judges are used to that in divorce court or child custody court, you know. But she would literally like use my sisters as like pawns in her game of manipulation. Now, the reason I share this is even going to court, I could tell that one of the things my dad had to really learn how to do is how to be in his own frame and how to not tune to her energy to try to fix, how not to try to appease her, how not to let her walk on him. And in a way, a lot of times for people like this, maybe even people like Johnny Depp, something I've had to learn, something I know my dad's had to learn, is how to shed the nice guy mentality. How to shed, because a lot of times the nice guy mentality is a level of codependency. Codependency is when we feel like maybe we need the validation or support of someone else. And that stems from the childhood experience of having a mom or a dad in a similar energy where maybe they were emotionally unavailable or controlling or manipulative. And there's a belief there. I had a belief for a long time that said, women are trying to control me and manipulate me. So even after 15 years old, when my ex-stepmom left, I attracted, not men, women into my life. It wasn't like I had a boss that was a guy that was emotionally manipulating me. It was always a woman that was emotionally manipulating me. And the reason being is because I had a belief that women in my life try to emotionally manipulate me. And also, there was something I had to learn. I had to learn how to forgive my ex-stepmom. And here's the interesting thing. Once I actually forgave my ex-stepmom and I let her go and I stopped like focusing on, I guess, the energy from, I felt like kind of like a victim from my childhood. I felt like I didn't have much of a childhood because I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of the things most kids do in teenage years until I was like 16 years old. So I felt like I missed some of my childhood. So I was like kind of bitter and resentful. But then what eventually happened is in 2012, I went through a process of my spiritual awakening, and I realized that my ex-stepmom, I was living those same patterns in my boss, who was very similar to my ex-stepmom, and ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. So what I eventually had to do is I knew I had to forgive my ex-stepmom. And once I forgave her, and I realized also that my ex-stepmom, she was a narcissist and is a narcissist because her dad, she kind of learned that growing up. Her dad was that way to her. Her dad was very angry and abusive towards her. Doesn't make it right, but it did help me understand her more. And once I understood her more and realized that people are always doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they're at. And unfortunately, there are narcissists on the planet and people that have this personality type dynamic to where in order for them to feel safe, what they have to do is manipulate their environment and manipulate others and use the emotions in order to do so. The challenge is that a lot of times narcissists are very intelligent. They know how to emotionally pull different levers. They know how to get people to feel a certain way, and they know the strategy in order to do so. So when it comes to my ex-stepmom and my dad had to learn how to stand up for himself. My dad had to learn how to not be affected from my ex-stepmom trying to emotionally manipulate him. My dad had to learn to say no and to not put his energy into that. My dad had to learn to leave, which I know is very hard for him. And when you look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, it's a very similar thing. The thing I would encourage Johnny Depp to ask himself, or anybody in this type of situation, is what part of me felt that I would allow this into my life, or that this felt familiar, this felt normal for me. Because it's a hard thing to look at within ourselves, but there's times we attract relationships, either emotionally manipulative people or people that physically abuse us or whatever, because it feels familiar. It feels like childhood. And what we're trying to do subconsciously is heal our childhood, but we attract people into our lives that maybe provoke and trigger us in these ways. So one of the things that also would really benefit him, Johnny, to look at is his own level of codependency in his life. Of a lot of times if we become addicted to drugs or alcohol and things like this, there's a level of codependency inside of ourselves that we're trying to numb because we feel codependent and we feel like there's a level of shame there that comes from childhood, and we're trying to prove ourselves through our success, through our relationships, through whatever. And the thing to look at is healing that codependency. When you heal the codependency, you get inside your own frame, you start becoming more vulnerable in your life. You will find that then you don't attract people into your lives that have that kind of energy dynamic. That's why this is so important in understanding all of this energy, is that we attract people into our lives because of what we can learn from it, but there may come a time when it's time for us to leave. And it's time for us to say no. And it's time for us to stand up for ourselves. And I think that that's what's happening right now with that of Johnny Depp. I think he's standing up for himself also because he probably has so much acting gigs and things that did not come because of all of this, like, you know, trial of all this accusations and stuff like that. And from my outside perspective looking in, I might be a little bit biased because I've seen my dad go through this. I've gone through this at a certain level with my ex-stepmom. So maybe I just kind of, you know, empathize with him more. But I'm able to see a lot of my ex-stepmom in Amber Heard, and that's probably why I'm just making this video and just letting you know that if you're in a situation like this, just know that sometimes we attract things into our life like this so that we can actually say no to it. We can actually have the courage to walk away. We can start being in our own frame, because one of the things is, and one of the reasons we find ourselves attracted to someone else like this is because we find safety in someone else's frame. I guarantee you during the relationship with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, even though Johnny Depp is so successful, an amazing actor, all these accolades and all this stuff, Amber Heard had more frame. She had more frame. She had more of a strong frame that Johnny felt from childhood that he had to appease his mom, he had to prove himself to his mom, he had to make his mom happy. So then he found safety in her frame and would try to fix her, would try to help her. And he was attracted to that for some reason because she had a strong frame. Now the challenge is, once somebody with a strong frame, once you leave that, he's now coming back and developing his own frame, but now this person is not happy. So what they're doing now is this person is making all these accusations and has kind of like completely tried wrecking his life, and now he's trying to reclaim a sense of sovereignty, a sense of frame. So one of the most powerful ways also to heal this codependency, by the way, is something called the frame technique. It's one of the most powerful techniques I've ever learned. It will help you get inside of your body, heal from codependency, and make it so that you have this energy that is not as affected by people like narcissists. It's easier to set boundaries and all these things. It's right here. Watch this video. It will change your life if you apply this technique for the next 21 days or less. We're going to do this little activation exercise that you can come back to for the next 21 days and see how different your energy is. Now, before, the way that I was and the way I showed up in the world is that I was hyper, like,